Gillan City, Guangxi Autonomous Region, China, is currently suffering from historic flooding, considered the worst since 1998. Continuous heavy rains have caused the Li River to swell and flood many areas in the city. Roads, shops, and homes have been submerged in floodwaters, while hundreds of residents are struggling to cope. Local authorities have issued a level 1 flood warning, the highest level on China's emergency warning scale, as floodwaters begin to inundate many residential areas. The Li River, which flows through Gillan, has reached 148.5 meters, 2.55 meters higher than the warning level, and surpassing the historic flood peak of 1998. During the prolonged floods of 1998, up to 3,400 people were killed and 220 million people were affected across 24 provinces and cities in China. This time, the river Li rose rapidly, causing chaos in many urban areas of Gillan. Water was chest deep in some low-lying areas, causing major disruption to rescue efforts and the movement of people. Many important transport routes were damaged, including a section of the motorway that was completely collapsed, and other routes were blocked. A series of flights, buses, and trains were cancelled or diverted. In particular, Gillan's main station had to temporarily suspend operations when the station square and waiting area were heavily flooded. Train services were disrupted, with passengers encouraged to use Gillan North Station for travel. It is expected that repairs and restoration of transport infrastructure could take up to 3 months. In response to the emergency, local rescue forces quickly deployed relief operations. Over the past few days, 69 people have been rescued from heavily flooded areas by boat, and food and supplies have been delivered to those who are unable to evacuate. Aid agencies, along with police and military forces, are working closely to ensure the safety of residents. In rural areas of Gillan, relief efforts are being hampered by the mountainous terrain. Charities and volunteers have had to trek over mountains to deliver supplies to isolated villages, where most residents are elderly. There are no helicopters available as the terrain is not conducive to landing. Meanwhile, heavy rains continue to threaten landslides, increasing the risk for rescue teams. Authorities and volunteers are constantly checking homes and low-lying areas to warn and evacuate people from dangerous areas. Rescuers have carried out numerous checks and issued warnings to ensure people are safe as water levels continue to rise. Gillan is not alone. Neighboring provinces such as Guangdong and Fujian have also been severely affected by the floods. In Guangxi, at least 9 people have died and hundreds of households have lost their homes. In Fujian, 15 villages in Shanghong County have yet to restore communications, while roads and infrastructure are being urgently repaired to restore communications and transportation. The Chinese government has allocated 96 million yuans, about $126 million, to support flood control and drought relief in northern regions. At the same time, the Ministry of Finance is also working with the Ministry of Water Resources to strengthen disaster relief and response efforts. The historic floods have not only tested Gillan, but also highlighted the need for more effective and sustainable disaster prevention systems in the future. The Li River has now begun to recede, but experts warn that the risk of landslides and other geological disasters remains high. Rescue efforts are still underway as local authorities focus on protecting people, stabilizing their lives, and quickly recovering from the aftermath. Natural disasters like these have prompted China to adopt new technologies in weather forecasting and disaster management in the hope of protecting and improving people's safety in the future.